All right, Chet, what I love about franchisee stories is you had to have done something spectacular to get to the point where you say, I'm going to invest my life savings into business I have little to no control over. And so you've gone through that journey, and that's the journey I want to start with. How did you accidentally fall into franchising? What's your franchise story?
So I have a very cool upbringing. I grew up in the Planet Fitness world. So I grew up in the health club industry. I was super fortunate to grow up around wonderful mentors and things like that that actually drove me into the operating franchise world. And I'm pretty lucky. I'm a sweat equity guy. So I was able to take, my knowledge and acumen that I built our group. We grew to over to 190 Planet Fitnesses, one of the largest in the system ever. And so I was able to take that and use that to leverage to be able to get the opportunity to start doing Sola salons.
At what point during that journey in your career does your mindset go from I'm an employee to I want to be a business owner? Like, do you remember like where the brain switched into it?
Oh yeah, most definitely. And it was probably before I even graduated college. I just knew I wanted to be like growing up around that, seeing what my parents did, seeing, other people in the industry, being involved with all kinds of different franchises. I mean, that seemed like the route, right? It just seemed people were happier, more fulfilled. I just felt like that's what I always wanted, to work hard, but see where that sweat is going and to profit off that. And not so much being, in the 9 to 5 or whatever you want to call it nowadays, but being stuck kind of doing the same thing, working for someone. Doesn't matter how hard you work, you can only reach a pinnacle, right? And I'm just obsessed with growth and, also helping others. That's what the Sola world does. Instead of, health, we offer financial freedom and guidance to those that would never have an opportunity to open up a full-on business or the acumen to do so.
So you say sweat equity.
Correct.
How did you build that up? Because I think, look, if I took the best franchisee stories that I've ever heard, majority of them don't come from financial wealth on day one. They have grit and hustle that earns it over time. How did you build that up? How did you get people to trust it?
So basically, man, there's so many stories within a story. I'm trying to think of the best way to start with that. But essentially, once again, growing up in that franchisee atmosphere, we started with one club when I was younger. By no means did we start out with wealth, right? That was gathered throughout the years and years, that the deals they made, mergers and acquisitions, all that fun stuff. But I would say what came from that was first, I did my schooling, and then I went and got my MBA from Ole Miss, and then continued to work into the corporate world. We took, one location, after many years, got it to 150. And then eventually when I left, we were at 192. So I think growing up, working in pretty much every position in a C-suite office, because I operated as like an operations specialist. So anywhere, financial, marketing, whatever, I'd spend 6 months with them or a year with them, wherever we were struggling in our areas. So I just had kind of an all-encompassing background, I guess you could say. And going down to one location with Sola was an offer made to me by another Planet Fitness group. And then my family, during COVID, I spoke with them and kind of mentioned I'm ready to go out and kind of start my own thing. And Sola Salons popped up, and I was offered this opportunity to, sign an ADA to build 3 locations. From there, this is what Chet's going to get. And that's exactly how that happened. We're going to stand off. You're going to run the entire ship, do whatever you need to do. I, at that time, did not have any capital like that to get involved. So I had 2 investors come on, and then they acted as mentors when it came to the leasing side of things and stuff like that. But I mean, our first year, we got new franchisee of the year, rocking and rolling, keep all of our locations at high occupancy, and we're still growing. So it's a lot of fun.
So many cool things in the stories. Is your family still in franchising?
So they are no longer in franchising per se. They do a lot of like commercial development, real estate development. They're serial entrepreneurs. Same with my brothers and all that. They're doing liquor stores. My little sister's in the flower boutiques, all that stuff. So it's a lot of fun. It's a really, really cool situation.
So on the other, the reality is that at 192 Planet Fitnesses, your family has gone from one to building wealth.
With a bunch of wonderful groups, right? A lot of it was, they were called Planet Fitness Trey Owen, United PF Partners, all kinds of different wonderful families that, merged together and built this powerhouse of conglomerate of locations.
How did you keep your brain focused on still hustle and grit? Because at some point, if you look around the room on what your family was able to come from and build into, there are plenty of children that would say, all right, kick the legs up. But clearly you and your siblings are still the entrepreneurial bug is in there. Is it part blood and DNA? And is it part just wanted to build something on your own?
I think it's encompassed with all, right? Because even though, we were definitely helped and given the world, it was all just in how they raised us. It was the yes ma'ams, no sirs, and they were always pushing us to do our absolute best, right? There was no room for slacking, let's say that, but it was all positive. It was just a lot of positive reinforcement and just seeing how they were treated in our circles and, business meetings, stuff like that. It drove me to want to be better and to build something of my own to be proud of. And I think my brothers and sisters, I would like to say they kind of look up to me and we're all super close. And it just, as they grew up, they felt the exact same way. And they continued no one paused. Everyone had a dream. Everyone wanted to do something. I don't think any of us know exactly what we want to do, but we knew we wanted to be business owners. I never thought I'd be in the salon industry. I thought I would be in health clubs till I died. I'm sure my brothers never thought they would be doing liquor stores and flying. And, it's just everyone's kind of divvying off into their own sectors. But our goal as always was to grow together, work together till we die, live by each other. And that's all happening now. So it's going really, really awesome.
Okay, obviously, Sola has a component, a real estate play too. So there's some similarities in a Planet approach. Planet is still a commercial real estate play as well, and for a lot of franchisees. When you make the decision, okay, I'm going to stay in franchise. I'm going to look what's out there. Talk to me about how your search went and how did you end up with Sola?
So this would be a really good question for my partner, Steve Gogan. So I still know the answer. And he was fantastic. He was the one who founded this model and brought it to us. But that's what happens, right? When you're in the franchising world and you kind of build, a good name for yourself, a reputable brand within that franchise, other Z's and other people start reaching out and you get to learn about some of the cooler models in the system. And I think that's what popped up. Sola is an amazing opportunity for a low operating model. One could say you don't have that many employees, but there's still great cash on cash returns. It was more of a real estate play, but I think the low operational side is what's most attractive about Sola, but also the amazing support you get from the office. So when you're looking at joining a franchise, do some extensive research. What are the barriers to entry? You don't want those easy entry franchises because then you get different kind of owners, right? Mm-hmm. And then your brand awareness might leak off or the consistency might leak off, which is going to hurt you. The best thing to look for is how do they support you? Talk to other franchisees, those barriers to entries, those costs to entries, and their success. What are they seeing on a cap rate when they're selling? What are how big are the biggest groups? Can I talk to those big groups? You just picking brains, but always be really cautious.
What I love about Sola is I've studied the story. It's obviously there's a great financial potential play on the business opportunity. They've engineered a really strong franchise. And what's cool is you look at the extension because of the people that are now able to go become entrepreneurs on their own too. The stylists, the hairstylists, that now it's opening up an opportunity to just keep building people that can be in control of their own destinies. I think that's part of the cool part about it. It is something that you actually feel good about the impact to the community, and every community needs it, right?
1,000%. It is one of the coolest things in the world when you have a guy or woman that's been in commission for 20 years, 25 years, right? That gives 50% of her paycheck to someone. They come over and then with 6 months, they're crying because they're like, what have I been doing my whole life? Like, this is amazing. Setting your own schedule, being your own boss, all within the confines of, 120 to a 240 square foot room that is built suite to suite exactly for your services. The safety that comes with it, the support that comes with it. I mean, it's amazing. That's what makes it so much fun. Is I just had my 2-year anniversary this past weekend for my Shreveport location, which we have roughly 40 tenants at. And I mean, it was just a party of stories about when they first joined, all that fun stuff. Truly remarkable and awesome that they're going from making 30 to 40,000 a year to upwards of 6 figures now after their first year at Sola. I mean, it truly is remarkable. I have so many countless stories like that. And most of the time when people are leaving, it's because they became so successful and learned like all the tools. They're going out and opening their own down the road, which is, I'm their biggest cheerleader all the time. All I'm supporting is success.
What's your dream now? You said you signed a 3-unit agreement. Where
Correct.
does your dream go? And does it stay with this brand? Do you keep expanding to other brands? Like you're dreaming bigger than 3 units.
Yes. So we already acquired 2. So I'm already at 3 within the first 2 years of operating. So now I'll end up at 5. I've got the Pensacola territory and the Lafayette territory. We have to find a location. The market's just been tough, I think, for real estate lately.
Yeah.
But no, my dream is to continue to grow with this brand. I have no intentions of stopping, honestly. I just really enjoyed it. And like I said, the model is awesome. It is not for the faint of heart. I mean, you still got to put in your work. You've got to have the right people in place. You got to have your maintenance men, your operators, your painters, like, you know what I mean? Just all the small stuff, because this is a hospitality business. This is a real estate play, but this is a hospitality and a business of relationships. The stronger relationships you have with your locations and your tenants and your Sola professionals, the better that location is going to perform, the better you're going to perform. But yeah, I kind of rambled there.
No, I love it because like ultimately, and this leads to my next comment. You think of going from 1 to over 190 in another system. The only way you're able to do that, there's no way you could show up at 190 units on a daily basis. What you have to do is you basically have to set a culture and then franchise a culture so that the right things are happening when you go to the next location. I would assume there's a lot of similarities here. If you're going to scale this, 5 is probably, if I look at every multi-unit franchisee, 5 is the turning point where now to go from 5 to 10 becomes difficult because you have to have duplicated the culture to be able to manage the expectations.
That is, I'm weird. I'm excited about it. So like everything's been kind of a fun challenge, but to back up on what you said, the culture that they built at the time I was there, it was United PF Partners. I believe it's United. I don't know the name of it now, that group, but they were exceptional. I mean, when I tell you the teams that they put in place, they knew exactly what they were doing, and you couldn't be more correct. So I find inspiration in knowing that I've got, so many contacts to reach out to when it comes to building, quote unquote, my team, because I'm still at the operational point where my hands are in every single basket. I know when I get to 4, that's going to have to be alleviated a little. And I know for sure, like you said, when it comes to 5, it's going to be different. And then from there, at that point, it's going to be, once you hit 10, it's kind of copy, paste. Right.
Yeah, I love it. All right. So let's say someone's watched up to this point. Any final thoughts for a franchise buyer on why Sola?
So The biggest point I could hit on, once again, is going to be the support at the beginning. Sola is phenomenal with helping with, location development. There's always someone you can call, whether it's tech related, simple conversation related. The stress that goes into building a business is alleviated by Sola, I would say, and a lot of other top brands, but especially Sola helps out tremendously. It's nice to be handheld because generally throughout your life as an entrepreneur, there's not much hand holding. It's a lot of kind of figuring stuff out on your own. So this was nice, being able to get all the support that I needed, and such a reputable brand. Another thing is vendors. Like, you can get into franchises where there's multiple vendors for construction, parts, you know what I mean? Like, we have a couple vendors and that's it, and they're ready to go. There's not delays necessarily when we did construction or anything like that. Everything was pretty much sold as it was. There was no fluffer or anything like that. So a very strong brand with, a wonderful real estate play. You're changing people's lives, low operations, not much employees to keep track of or anything along those lines. It's pretty hard to beat.
I love it. Well, and look, and you've had enough experience to be able to look at this and say, here's the difference. You've been at great brands. It's not like this is your first great brand, and you're able to say, okay, this is on par. This aligns with my expectations. If there is someone listening, I mean, that's what I would be listening for, is what you just said about support ends up being deeply valuable. But awesome story. Thanks for sharing some of it with us today. I look forward to the day where you're calling me. You're like, hey, we got 190 of these now too. So
that'd be cool, right?
I love it. All right. For Chet, I'm Nick. This is another episode of Meet the Z.